This week we've been thinking about values, and one of the things that Brene Brown says is that out of all the organisations that she's worked with and all the businesses, less than 10% of them have values that are articulated and defined as opposed to one word like integrity, and that are turned into statements of behaviour that are then taught and evaluated against. And this is one of the things that in wellbeing teams we were really paying close attention to do, both recruiting people for their values, recruiting people who align with the values of the organisation, and having our values threaded through not only the recruitment process but the induction process and beyond, but also being able to talk about our values in relation to behaviours. So here's one example. Our first value in wellbeing teams is compassion, and we use the Minescence definition because Jackie Lefevre has been the person who has been both our inspiration and our support around values, and we've been using the Minescence framework. So compassion is defined in the Minescence framework as actively hearing and sensing one another's thoughts and feelings, being kind and finding empathetic ways to support individuals and each other to achieve positive outcomes. And for us, compassion is both self-compassion and compassion to each other and the people that we're serving. So the three behaviours that reflect the values are: we're kind to ourselves and each other in words and actions. We recognise our own feelings and use these to understand what we need and ask for what we need from each other. And we actively listen and listen with empathy to one another's thoughts and feelings. So those are the behaviours that we'd expect to see in wellbeing teams when we're living into our value of compassion. And then behaviours that don't reflect this value is we would gossip and talk about people and not to them. We would interrupt people and talk over them. And we are critical and judgment of ourselves and each other. So again, thinking about compassion both as self-compassion and how we think and talk to ourselves, as well as how we think and talk to others. Now, one of the things that we've been exploring is how do you make sure these values live throughout the organisation? And one of the things that we do is, because we're recruiting people to these values, we then want to give people in teams an opportunity to think about the behaviours that work for them as a team that really support these values. So the values and behaviours are consistent across the organisation, but each team gets an opportunity to put them in their own words and look at what else they want to commit to build trust within the team in the form of team agreements. And then using two ways to review this. One is confirmation practices, where we take each of our values or our statements for team agreements and rate ourselves 1 to 5 for each of them as a sort of self-reflection, and then doing it with a buddy and then deciding how we want to improve, or doing a person-centred team review where we come together either in person or on Zoom using something like Mural and look at what's working and not working, about how we're living our values, how we're living our team agreements, how we're achieving our purpose. So what's working and what's not working, what do we appreciate about our team, what's important to us about our team, and what's important about what's happening now and for the future. And then when we reflect on all that information together, a team can both update their team agreements, but they can't update the organisation values, of course, because they are set. But update their team agreements and set goals or outcomes for the next 3 to 6 months based on what they want to work on together and move forward.